Hello and welcome back to 209 Prep Sports Media. Here in the studio, got call in this morning with Nick Coronado, the quarterback at Kimball. How you doing, Nick?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Hanging in there. We've been seeing you put up some crazy numbers this 4 game season or whatever it is. Why don't you give us a little background on yourself and the program and how you guys are turning things around and why you're such an efficient offensive machine?
Well, I've been quarterback. I've been playing since I was about 7, 8 years old, and I just kind of I'm a mature quarterback when it comes to playing with younger kids because I want to just put my team in the best spot they could be. Share the ball and get. I don't really pay attention to my stats. I'm just want to get wins with my team. The program, we have before I came in, we had a very bad reputation of losing all the time. We were just kind of the bad team in Tracy. We lose, we'll go at least like 10 and 2 and 8. We wouldn't really win, but my mentality coming into the program was, I want to turn it around. I want to put us on the map. Get our name out there, and also get my name out there because I also want to play at the next level. And our offense, everybody just bought in this year. Last year we had a good team, but this year our chemistry is good. We all bought in, and we all just have one goal, and that's to win games. So when everybody jumps on the same train, we can go pretty far that way.
Yeah. I've been fortunate enough to see you play, some sevens, and then we've watched some film, got to see some highlight film for you. The one thing I that I kind of I'm impressed probably the most with is you're obviously you're a field general. You get it. You can control the offense well, but your decision making process is solid. You don't put yourself in bad spots a lot. You make good quick decisions and don't turn over the ball a lot. You want to kind of give us an idea how you've evolved as a quarterback and how you've kind of grown, with that, having that one physical trait that kind of good decision making and things like that.
Uh, sort of, my dad coached me, and he showed me my fundamentals, all the little stuff. But when I got into high school, he kind of passed me on to my coach, Coach K. He showed me the offense, how to read defenses, and just how to be a better quarterback overall for the team, not just for myself, but for everybody. And just trying to put us on our back and make decisions based on what can win us games or put us in the best situation to score a touchdown. But also, my quarterback coach, Greg Pinelli, he works out with Cruz. He's also helped me a ton. Feet work, my arm strength has grown tremendously. And he's also shown us coverages, how to read defenses. So working with those guys, they help me a ton. And I don't think it's just one trait. They just want to, evolve my game overall so I could be a elite quarterback. So I definitely have room to work, but I'm just trying to get better every day.
Yeah, I've seen that. I mean, I've seen your maturation process. When I watched you play sevens last year, your arm strength was okay, but this year it's much different. It's just and I'm sure it's just a process. You're getting older and stronger, but I know you're a dedicated kid that just kind of wants to get after it. And for those that don't know, you're not the tallest guy in the world, but I think what you make up when you make up with lack of size with a ton of heart, and a ton of instinct and skill. When I watch, I'm fortunate enough to watch, the 20 something guys that Greg has throw Pinelli, and you can throw with anybody, and so it's really impressive to see that happen. Now talk to me a little bit about your teammates. I know that you guys spread the ball around quite a bit. So why don't you give us a good idea of, not necessarily your favorite targets, but kind of what your thought process is and what you guys as a team try to accomplish by spreading the ball around so much.
Yeah, well, we have an explosive running back in Alonzo Jackson. He transferred from St. Mary's last year and came over to us, and we're fortunate enough to have him now. And the kid he's an explosive player. He's exciting to watch. So when they key on our passing, we feed the ball to Alonzo. He's a great player. He can get out of space, and it'll be trouble for defenses. But when we pass the ball, Mason Rivera, he's our number 4. He's number 4 on our team. He actually had 3 touchdowns in the Patterson game. And that kid, I'll take that kid over anybody, jumping with anyone. We have Dylan Anderson. He's our tight end. He's out this week, but he's phenomenal. I think he has 2-3 touchdowns this year, and it sucks not having him this week, but I know he's going to get better. We have Eric Gordon on our left side. He's a great wide receiver. He has 2 touchdowns this year. We have Jerome Nance and Dom Sunigo, which are our slot receivers. They're both quick, not the tallest guys, 5'5", 5'6", but they're super fast. And then we have Osaze and Willie Clifton on our right side, and those kids are just, when you get the ball in their hands, they can make magic happen.
Yeah, and we saw it last week. You guys put up a ton of points, and I guess kind of got to give credit where credit's due with Jackson having, you got to have a pretty good line to be able to run. No matter how talented you are, your line's got to be pretty solid, and I don't think you get hit, as much as you probably would in other offenses. So maybe give a little bit of, give us an idea of who your linemen are and what they contribute to this whole offensive juggernaut.
Oh yeah, I give my linemen credit all the time. They protect me week in and week out. Our left side, we have a kid. We call him KP. He's a freshman, and he's about 6'3", 6'4", 310. And I'm so happy we had him this year. Our left guard, Ryan Dunaway, I've literally grown up with him since we were 6 years old. So me and that guy, he's a beast. We have Eddie Fuentes at center with Haroon. Our right side, we have Nico. He was supposed to be a DN, but we put him at right guard this year, and that kid, he's super strong, and he's been pushing people around. And then on our right side, we have a kid named Abed. He's about 6'2", 290, and he just keeps everybody in front of him. So I love that they protect me. And when I do get hit, it's frustrating, but I know they're doing their best. But they're the biggest factor in our offense.
Yeah, and like I said, you're one of the top. I think, what are you in the top 5 or 10 passing in California, in this shortened season, and come from Tracy with, I think you guys have 4 or maybe 5 high schools, and it's not the biggest town in the world, so there's a lot of talent spread around amongst those high schools. But I think what's been most impressive for you guys, like you said, your reputation wasn't so great a few years ago, and now, I think that when you guys step into these games, it's not. I don't think anybody necessarily fears you, but they know they're going to be up. They're going to be in a game. They know they're going to have to deal with the potent offense, and it seems like your defense, is evolving, but it's not quite up to the caliber of the offense. I think you guys. So who do you have tomorrow night?
We have Sierra High School out of Manteca.
So it'll be a little bit of their defense is pretty good. So you guys will have a little bit of a test on your hands.
Yeah, we definitely do. Last year they shut us out 35-0, so we also have a chip on our shoulder, which I bet they do too, because they're probably being doubted. So I just definitely going to be a game tomorrow.
Yeah. So Nick, tell me, I know you guys started the season, and even last season, your head coach, has, like you talked about before, helped you with learning the game, learning how to read defenses and, how your offense worked and things like that. And I think you guys started the season, with him in place, and then, not too long after the season got started, he was let go or released of his duties. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I know, that kids, our teams in general, you become a family, and so maybe talk to that, how that's affected you guys. And, I think the most impressive thing for you, and I don't know I haven't, spoke to your specific feelings on it, but, your guys as coach leaving, that could be a good or a bad thing. Sometimes kids, buckle because he's the leader, and then some kids step up and want to play for him, and in spite of what the decision was made. So why don't you kind of give us an idea of how that affected the team and how you guys have been so strong-willed and strong-minded to just keep on and having such a successful season so far?
Yeah. So the feeling as a team, we're always going to be not sad, but we're always going to feel down because we don't have like you said, he's our leader. He's everything got us together. And when we all found out the news that he got fired, and we found out probably 2 hours before our first game against Manteca, we really had we couldn't really make a decision based on if we wanted to play or not. So we all text each other, said we're going to play, but we're not going to play for our school. We're going to play for our coach. But this it affected us a lot because like I said, he got everything together for us, and for us to just find out hours before that we're not going to have our coach, it kind of like hit us pretty hard because we prepared the whole week. Like maybe like us 3 weeks. We prepared 3 weeks for it, the game, and we know like coaches are just gonna have to fill in like that. Don't know what to do. Not saying that our first game wasn't a good game because we played an excellent game, but it was hard because we had to adapt like on the spot. So it affected us a lot. Our team, we kind of just it's in the back of our mind, but right now we're just focused on these next two games, getting these wins, and getting out this season.
Yeah, and Scott and I talked about it, at length last week, and how impressive it is that you guys, and there's a lot of resolve there. You guys have, there's a lot of emotion that goes into that. I mean, it would be like, it's kind of like losing your best player, when you lose, the leader. And like you said, I don't necessarily, it's not a slight to anybody else, but it's more along the lines of, that there was a structure to the way the game was called, and the decisions that are being made, and the team is built around what the personnel is, and the head coach often has their thumb on the pulse of that. And so, like we've talked about at length, to see you guys do as well as you've done, you guys, as a team, should be commended for your work ethic and your desire and your strong-willed attitude. We want to we want to just keep following you. We've talked about your whole team and your coaching staff and things like that. Let's get under the hood a little bit with Nick Coronado. So Nick, what's your future? I mean, if you had to, were able to write the script after high school gets over, what would you want to see yourself doing? And maybe what level would you like to see yourself playing at?
I definitely, my dream is always to play Division 1, but I don't really want to put my finger on a certain school or anything. I'm open to anything. Whoever wants to pay for my education, because education is first for me. And, obviously I do want to play ball at the next level if I'm blessed enough. But, yeah, like I said, I don't have my fingers set on just one school or one, level. But Division 1's always going to be my top priority because, that's the highest level you could play at the college level. So definitely I work for it. I work hard for it. So I feel like I could play at the next level. But like I said, education is first for me, and then football comes next. So what I want to do in college is get myself into sports medicine. So when I get involved in that, then play football, I hope I'm blessed enough to get scholarship for academic or athletic.
And that's also impressive to hear. That you're an academic minded student athlete. That knows where and prioritizes their life in a way that will give you some success in the future. It's impressive, to talk to a guy that's a young guy that's your age that kind of has their has a plan. And it's difficult. It's a difficult enough situation, as well. That I have sons that are playing and trying to figure out this whole recruiting process. And, you guys are at a huge disadvantage for COVID, or having to go through this last year of COVID, and your film's pretty limited. But, were you guys as a team able to kind of get, keep your practices going and stay together and communicate, through Zoom or whatever throughout this COVID situation?
So when we came back the first time during summer ball, it was like spring ball, summer ball, which that's normal for us. Everybody usually goes back July, around there. So we go back, and when they shut us down the first time, we really thought about it, and we're like, okay, we're gonna go back soon. So we went back the second time, and once we got shut down the second time, our mentality, not mine, but I can speak for my team, everybody kind of doubted that we were gonna play this year, which I can see why, because everything that was going on, our state shutting everything down, it happened a bunch of times. And, I was just feeling bad for my seniors because, those are like my older brothers, and for them not to get a season, it would have been heartbreaking. But when we came back, yeah, we were able to communicate. We have a team group chat where we all can speak to each other. We can call each other, and we definitely emphasize talking to one another, getting in the playbook, working out with each other, because some kids during this time got home gyms, so definitely got a group of kids, went to their houses, worked out, and then we'd go to practice. So, yeah, we were able to keep in contact, but, we rather be in person and practice together. But, I'm just happy that we were able to have a season, and the seniors are allowed to.
Yeah, and The one thing I can say that's the most impressive I think with your guys' team that I've seen is there has to be some type of cohesiveness that goes along, and it's probably because you guys stayed tight, through the pandemic, and were able to kind of work out together a little bit and talk about playbook and stuff like that. And there's guys like yourself, and I don't know if any of your skill guys were able to do sevens, because the sevens really didn't stop. I know you guys were having to travel out of state quite a bit, and there were some camps. I know that some of the groups put some camps together, so that kept you a little bit motivated. But there's nothing like games or game film. So Nick, more than anything, I just I'm going to cut you loose now. I know I told you I'd give you, I didn't want to take too much of your day. I know you guys are kind of going to get ready for tomorrow night's game. Want to wish you all the luck in the world. Is there anything you want to leave us with that, that there's something that we should know about, or anything that anything exciting that we can expect out of you tomorrow night?
I'm sure as a team we're going to do our best and, try to put on a show and, get our name out there. But, I appreciate you guys having me on here, and, it's a blessing that you guys asked me to do this.
Well, I appreciate your time, Nick. We'll talk to you soon. Good luck tomorrow night. Good luck with the rest of the season, and good luck in your recruiting process. Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
Once again, just want to thank Nick for that interview. Pretty informative, and the kid handled himself really, really well. So that's pretty impressive, and it leads into right where we start. So we're going to go ahead and cover the some of the scores from last week, and we'll go ahead and start with that Kimball Patterson game. I think one of the most impressive things about what Nick did this last weekend and what Kimball pulled off was, their efficiency. Not only did he pass for 491 yards, and they scored, a massive 62 points, but he completed 70% of the passes that he threw, and that at a 33 for 47 clip and 7 touchdowns is, really, really impressive. Alonzo Jackson rushed for 88, and so that was pretty impressive too. And the one stat that sticks out to me the most, and I'm assuming this is right, but Jordan Amata, the running back from Patterson, rushed 38 times for 416 yards and 45 and 5 touchdowns. So if those stats are accurate, I mean, any kid rushing for high school, you'll see the 300-yard rusher every now and then, but you don't often see a 400-yard rusher. So that's a pretty tall task. And kind of going down the line of the people Nick talked about, Alonzo Jackson had 20 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. Mason Rivera, 6 catches for 141 and 3 touchdowns. Eric Gordon had 5 catches for 72 and a touchdown. Willie Clifton, 3 for 52 and a touchdown. And Travis Marrero had 3 for 42 and a touchdown. Alonzo Jackson also caught 6 passes for 94 yards, but no touchdown. So that was just the good old fashioned shootout. I mean, 62-56.
That's a big score. That's a big score.
You're there on a Friday night. I mean, you barely get into your soda and your popcorn, and they're already.
Well, I'm just curious if both teams decided, we're going to just run a gun of not, rest everybody on defense and to see who can outscore who.
Yeah, Nick mentioned, that they just came out to play ball and they really stepped up. So they got a big game tomorrow night against Sierra. So kudos to them. Great job by them. So, and our next score will be.
Yeah, speaking of Sierra, Sierra played Manteca this last week. Manteca won by a score of 50-21, which is a little surprising to me. I thought Sierra would that score might be a little bit closer, but as in every score, and just because of the nature of what we're going through right now, there's probably more to the story that we don't know about. But Manteca had a big night. Chris Charles was kind of the story of the game. He had 10 carries for 111 yards and a touchdown, 70 yards on 1 carry. Let's see here. Receiving, Khalid Robinson had 2 receptions, 21 yards. All-purpose yards, we had, again, Chris Charles, 111. Blake Nicholson had 85 rushing yards. Lyon Cologne had 74 yards, and then also had a punt return of 70 yards. So they were spreading the wealth out pretty good that game. Defensively, we don't have too many, not too many defensive stats posted. But one thing I do want to say about Manteca, and something that maybe should have been brought up, I should have brought up last week. Manteca had a night where they honored one of their past coaches, Eric Reese. Eric coached Manteca for a long time. He was I forgot how many section championships he won there, but Eric is an old friend of mine. He and I were teammates at one point, and it was no surprise to me that he would go on and have the success that he had at Manteca High School. So congratulations, Eric. Enjoy just watching football for a change instead of coaching.
Getting into our next game, St. Mary's played Central Catholic. Again, I was able to attend this game in person, so it's not we're not trying to favor any teams other than or more than others, but it's just easier when you've been there. So, very well played game. Both sides came down to one score. It was 42-34. St. Mary's tried to pull away a couple different times, but the resilient Central Catholic Raiders kind of just put their foot down and weren't going to allow them to run away from them. And so they St. Mary's, they kind of spread the ball around running and passing. The quarterbacks in a dual role combined for 10 of 15 for 266 and 2 touchdowns. They also threw 4 picks. Rushing the ball, Tyree Washington just had a game. I mean, he was 16 for 145 and 3 touchdowns. The one thing that impresses me the most, I guess, about Tyree is his toughness. The way he runs the ball, he just runs with some aggression and runs a lot, very much downhill. And so he's a tough guy to bring down. Another great game for Jason Calvin, the sophomore out of St. Mary's. He had 3 catches for 161 and 88 yards. He also had 69 yards rushing and a touchdown. So he had 3 touchdowns on the night for the sophomore. Really quick kid, gets after it. On the other side of the ball, Dominic Perino and Tyler Wentworth split time. Tyler's a freshman, so he got a couple of series. They threw the ball relatively well. They were 12 for 19 for 152. And 3 touchdowns, no picks. A couple good, nice fade balls that we had Phoenix Jackson go up and get. Phoenix is a pretty good receiver out of Central Catholic. Central Catholic likes to run the ball. Jalen Nichols is a sophomore down there. He's a 3-star. Had 11 carries for 60 yards, and then Julian Lopez. I was super impressed with this kid running the ball. He was 18 for 140, no touchdowns, but was super physical kid. Really wanted to get after it. Again, much like Tyree Washington, it was pretty neat to watch that old throwback style. They both got after it a little bit. Were tough to bring down with one or two guys. So on the defensive side of the ball, Nick Murray had 11 tackles. Jazon Jacks had 11 tackles. And Max Rascon, it seems like we're talking about Max all the time. He had 12 tackles. So really good on that side of the ball. Nobody really stood out on the defensive side of the ball for Central Catholic. There's a bunch of guys with 6. Phoenix Jackson and AJ Perez both had 6 tackles. And then you had Jericho Machado and Jalen Nichols right around the 5 mark. So it was a well-played game. Came right down to the end. Very, very, very entertaining and well played on both sides of the ball. So
with that, we'll move it on over to Lodi and Tracy. Lodi played Tracy. They won 48-21. Lodi seems to really be putting it together. Unfortunately, they didn't post their stats, so we can't highlight any of the individual players, but Tracy did, which one thing that I've always believed in when I was coaching is that win, lose, or draw, get your stats turned in, because even in a loss, you're going to have players that did really well and they deserve to be showcased. So, I just hope more coaches take that approach so we can talk about some of these outstanding efforts. But Tracy had Drew Frederick at quarterback. He was 9 of 17 for 106 yards. 1 touchdown, 1 pick. In the backfield, it looks like Austin Hoy Sai. I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly. He had 12 carries for 81 yards and a touchdown, his longest coming on a 30-yard carry. Receiving, we had, looks like we had 4 different players with 2 receptions, Jake Shrout, Cody Lammerts, Tommy Chavez, and then Austin Hoy Sai. So, looks like Austin is kind of their go-to guy for a lot of things. Let's see here. Tackles, we had leading in tackles was Steven Garcia, followed with Cameron Pereira, and then Khalil Walls, and those guys were from Tracy. Again, it'd be nice to talk about Lodi and some of their efforts scoring 48 points, but hopefully we'll catch them next week.
Couple scores that we'll run down without any statistics because they weren't posted. Calaveras up in the MLL beats Argonaut 20-14, and then Sonora by the exact same score beat Somerville 20-14. But we will cover.
We've gotten a chance to talk to the coach from Somerville, and he's very excited about his program, and so having a score of 20-14, I think that bodes well for Somerville. I mean, that's you're playing Sonora, and it. When Sonora first came to the Modelo League, they kind of took the league by storm, and hopefully this is a sign of things to come, where the league is evening out a little bit, and we're going to see a Somerville or I don't want to say Argonaut or Calaveras because they seem to be there every year, but maybe a Bret Hart. Maybe we'll see some of these other teams come back to a little bit of prominence.
Yeah, you have Argonaut, Amador, Calaveras, Sonora. Kind of the big four monster up there, but. Kind of staying with the theme of high scoring games. Orostimba travels to Waterford. Waterford escapes with a 46-37 win. Casillas, the quarterback for Orostimba, is 12 for 24 for 281 and 2 touchdowns. Aaron Adams, his counterpart, is 9 for 17, 135, 4 touchdowns. Pretty good day for Aaron Adams. Rushing the ball was by committee. Casillas, King, and Horton rushed for a collective 76 yards and 3 touchdowns for Orostimba, while Waterford holds it down with 309 yards rushing, and it's split pretty equally with the carries, with Ryan Hilton having the most yards with 133, Aaron Adams with 94, and Seth Reynolds with 82. On the other side, on the receiving side of the ball, Lucas Reel, the senior at Waterford, had 6 catches for 79 and 3 touchdowns. And then I guess on the defensive side of the ball, the standouts for the day for me would be Mario Garcia with 22 tackles.
Wow!
And again, this is we weren't at the game. These are input by somebody else, but that's a pretty phenomenal day. And his counterpart, Mario's a senior. His counterpart, Kai Brazil. Kai's a sophomore, had 16 tackles, and Matthew Martin's a senior, had 13 for Orostimba. Leading the charge for Waterford was Lucas Reel with 7. Then you had Weatherington had 6, and a couple of guys with 5, Coop Thompson and Seth Reynolds. So looked like a pretty good game up there or down there at Waterford. So high scoring shootout.
We're going to move on the next score. We're going to move back up north to Stockton. We had a crosstown rivalry game between the Chavez Titans and the McNair Eagles. Final score is 21-12. Again, this is one of those situations where only one school posted their stats. So we're going to highlight Chavez on this. So Chavez had Brandon Wood in the backfield at quarterback. He was 11-22, 166 yards, averaging 15 yards a throw, that's pretty impressive. In the backfield, and this is where I think this is one of the highlights of the week. Reuben Hooks, who's only a junior, so they're getting him back next year. He was 27 carries for 169 yards, a 6.3 average. His longest was 23 yards, but he did have 2 touchdowns, which really was the difference in this football game. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we had leading in tackles. Sean Clark, a junior from Chavez, he had 4 tackles. And then it gets kind of spread around the rest of the team. A lot of assists. Let's see here. We had Justin Mann with 6 assists. Isaac Esquivel, 6 assists. Tino White with 6 assisted tackles. So, it's defense by committee with Chavez. Everybody chips in. And again, the final score was Chavez Titans 21 and McNair 12.
Kind of going back down to the Stanislaus County, Downey travels to Grigori to play against each other. A pretty dang good game, 24-21. I believe the game was won in the last 10 seconds or so on a nice corner route thrown by Hudson Wyatt. So Hudson was the quarterback to finish the game. He was 4 for 9 for 70, and at that lone touchdown, which was a big one. Michael Navarez had 67 yards rushing and a touchdown. Hayden Grant had 54 yards rushing and a touchdown for Downey. Receiving, Gabe Hernandez had 3 catches for 77 yards and that one big touchdown. And then on the other side of the ball, Grigori Cruz Marinas, who's really had a breakout junior year, he was 16 for 29 for 313. He did throw a pick and no touchdowns, but also rushed for 95 yards. So that's pretty impressive. I know that was one of those games that that was kind of on the docket because I know Cruz and Hudson Wyatt work out with each other. So I'm sure that they'd had a lot of talks the week before, or the week leading up to the game. They had McClendon had 5 catches for 153 and 80 yards for Grigori and 2 touchdowns. Timmy Ruiz had 6 for 107. So pretty dang good game, for those 2 schools. Downey's been known to score a ton of points. On the defensive side of the ball, Cortez Rush had 13 tackles for Downey, and then Marchino had 12 for Downey as well. On the Grigori side, Ryan Weidergren had 10 tackles, and then you had Zane Wheeler and Benavides both had 6. So that was a pretty good game. I think at the end of the day, for a game to come down in the last 10 seconds or so, it's everybody's going to go home happy.
The next game, and we're going to start winding it down here with just a couple more scores. We had Linden and Tokay. Got to see some of this game. This was, for Linden, this was a really great effort. Walking into, another big school situation. They played Lodi a few weeks ago, and Coach, I know, there was some, I think there was some high emotions in this football game. It was a great game back and forth. There were some things that happened maybe towards the end of the game, but I will say this, for Linden to go in and play a big school like this as tough as they did, that's a pretty impressive showing. You had not a whole lot of passing in this game from Linden, but it was kind of a defensive battle, rushing on the ground. Jay Sherman for Linden had 23 carries for 279 yards. We talked about him last week. He's one of my players of the week. He's right up there again for player of the week again this week. Joe Cowan, who was playing quarterback, he had 14 carries for 68 yards and a touchdown. You flip it over to the Tokay side of the ball. Ty Donato, and I apologize if I don't say that name correctly. He had 9 completions on 14 attempts with a long of 35. And then the backfield, you had Filippini had 21 carries, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. And then Jose Bravo had a great night. He was 19 of 149 with 3 touchdowns. This game really came down to the wire. Maybe in my opinion, and again, I don't ask you as a coach to comment on this. There was a pretty good helmet-to-helmet contact at the end of the game that I thought should have been called. It was overlooked, and that happens sometimes. But I think this easily could have gone the other way. So great effort by Linden. And then the last score that I want to talk about, and this leads into our second guest of the podcast, was Hilmar Merced, and you're going to hear Coach Mark Santos from Hilmar talk about this game here in just a couple of minutes. But again, you can't. Hilmar just can't go unnoticed anymore. They're scheduling all these big schools, and not just size wise, but big schools that have a history of winning. And so they went to Merced. They were winning 13-0 with 4 minutes left to go, and Merced decided to they threw a 75-yard bomb for a touchdown, and then I'll let Coach Mark Santos go ahead and explain from there. But we'll go back to Coach here.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and play Coach's. We pre-recorded his interview, but before we get into that interview, we're gonna go ahead and go with our players of the week. So this week we have at running back, I'll go ahead and go with Tyree Washington. Tyree had a heck of a game. It'd be hard to argue with these stats from the Patterson running back as well. So I'll give a code for Jordan Amata, and for me, it'd be for Jordan Amata and Tyree Washington would be my co-MVPs for the week, or co-players of the week.
I do want to give an honorable mention to Ruben Hooks at Chavez. He was 27, 169, 2 touchdowns. And like I said, he's going to be exciting because he's only a junior. We're going to get to watch him again next year as well. And then, I think maybe the one other one that I want to throw out there, and you'll hear Coach talk about this. I think I'm going to go, and this is the offensive lineman in me. I think I'm going to go with the offensive line of Hillmar as one of our players of the week. Those kids are impressive, and I'm not going to steal any thunder. You'll hear this from Coach.
Yeah, and then we would digress too if we didn't honor Nick Coronado for that heck of a game that he had. Seven touchdowns and almost 500 yards passing. So
he gets the Al Bundy Award. In the city championship, I scored 4 touchdowns, but he just keeps producing and producing. I mean, he's putting up some monster numbers.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that probably more than most years, where you kind of you're a lot more reliant on one player or another, and that's. I think there's a couple of things you're dealing with a little bit more injuries than we have in the past, just because of lack of conditioning. I also think that you're more reliant and you tend to go to the well a little bit more than you would in a normal season, especially with being a shortened season. So you're seeing some of these kids just put up gaudy numbers, which is super impressive. And it's a testament to their work and their dedication. So we'll leave you guys with this great interview with Coach Mark Santos at Hillmar. And appreciate you guys all for listening this week.
I'm here with Coach Mark Santos of the Hillmar Yellow Jackets football program. Coach, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thanks for having me on. I'm excited. I always listen to you guys, and I love the work you guys are doing, bringing a little bit of recognition to these kids that are working hard in the Valley. Yeah,
absolutely. And speaking of recognition, I think Hillmar has done – it's no secret that over the years, Hillmar's always had a quality football program. And I'm talking about going way back, back to the 80s when I played. We came across Hillmar and we talk about teams that we want to see play and mark the schedules and stuff like that. Hillmar's always going to be, I think, one of those teams, whether it's a Hillmar Ripon game or a, Hillmar Escalon game when you guys are playing within conference. But I kind of want to talk a little bit about the direction that you guys are going this year. Before I do that, maybe give me a quick rundown of the coaching staff there at Hillmar.
So our coaching staff, we're pretty lucky. We're built around a lot of Hillmar guys, guys that played in the program. I think we have maybe 2 coaches that haven't went through and been coached by Coach Marcus in some form or way. Coach Marcus has been there since 2003 as the head coach, but he's been part of the program since the early 80s. And he graduated, I think, around 81. We're all off of his tree. Nowadays you can learn stuff from other coaches, but a lot of the stuff that we see is based off of him. He's got a crazy resume. I want to say this, looking at what he's been on, he's played in, I want to say 8 or 9 section championship games. So every other year, we're pretty much in a section game. And a lot of that going off the coach. And he tells us, I'm the OC and we have a DC. He's kind of running and managing everything. He lets us kind of do what we want to a certain extent. But he does a great job of keeping us on task and what we want to do. And it goes through not just our varsity, but our JV reflects on that. Our freshmen reflect on it. We all run the same system. We use the same terminology. And the coaching staff's kind of all bought in together. And we mesh pretty good. I've seen other staffs talk to other coaches where the JVs run something different than the varsity. We're all on the same page. And I think by the time I get the kids up in varsity, we can talk our language and they know what the heck's going on. That saves us big time, especially early in the year.
Yeah, that's vital. We've talked about it before on this podcast, the importance of coaches, not only in the X's and O's, but beyond that, what coaches have to sacrifice with their own families and what they do for these kids. And at the high school level, the athletes pick up on that so keenly. So having a united front from a coaching staff is extremely important. With that said, I think when we look at Hillmar and kind of the goals that you probably had for the season, I'm sure a state bowl game was probably at the top of that list. And COVID came in and just really kind of, made that difficult for everybody. So kind of what I want to talk about a little bit is how aggressive you guys got with your scheduling this year. I mean, it seems to me that, within the parameters that you were given to schedule teams, it almost feels like looking at your schedule, you guys said, we're just going to go find the toughest games that we can find and roll with it. And, you have Atwater, Buhawk Colony, Merced. You've played all three of those schools already. And just as a recap, you guys started off March 19th against Atwater, a bigger school, and you guys pretty much rolled them 35-19. Didn't drop off at all on your schedule the following weekend. You guys played Buhawk Colony, a school that I believe in the previous season had just an outstanding season. You guys beat them 31-27, and then keeping on the theme of let's go after the big dogs, you guys played Merced to a 14-13 game. Maybe let's start off with the thought process on scheduling those games, and then we can circle back and talk about each one of those games individually.
Yeah, we feel like the TVL is the strongest small school league in the state.
Sure.
And that's something we kind of pride ourselves on. So we knew going into next year, looking a little bit into the fall, and we had to prepare ourselves. We want to go into some battle-tested games because when we go see Ripon next year, when we go see Escalon, when we go see Houston, Livingston's on the upper rise, MC, Riverbank, all those teams, we got to prep ourselves. So we were like, no, let's see what we can do, get some good games playing Atwater, Buac, Merced so far. We wanted to use this time to get better. And we always like playing a little bit of the underdog role. We're the smaller school, and it's fun to preach that to the kids, get a little bit of respect playing these bigger schools. And just something we like that challenge. It makes practice more fun, knowing that we get to play these schools and there's that challenge. And that's just something we look forward to. We're excited about being the underdog and going in there with a little bit of chip on our shoulder and just kind of showing that just because we're a D6 or D5, whatever school, it's only 11 guys playing at a time. And we got smaller guys. We're smaller on the line. We don't really have those 6'4", 260 linemen, but it's just kind of the attitude that we bring where we're getting after it, playing with that chip and just kind of playing together. It's crazy to see how our 6'2", 220 linemen are making it happen against these 6'4", 300-pound dudes.
Yeah,
it's fun times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's safe to say that Hillmar's a small school, but you play like a big school. Let's talk about Hillmar Atwater. You guys go in first game of the abbreviated season. You're playing a bigger school. Maybe just give us a quick rundown of that game.
So we knew going in there, their D-line was pretty impressive. There's a couple guys that we felt like we had to double or kind of working around. Their safety was flying around. They're pretty athletic. Their quarterback was the guy that's a true spread guy that can run or throw. We just knew that we had to keep a clean game, or we told our kids as long as we win the turnover battle and we execute, we give ourselves a shot. And that's kind of what happened. Our defense played great. The score was 35-19, but we had 2 pick sixes in that game.
Wow.
So that totally turned it around.
Sure.
I think at halftime, the score was it wasn't even close. But going into the third quarter, we did 21 unanswered, and one of those was off of a pick six. And the momentum was going off to that with our kids just kind of fighting on that. The score, I think the game was actually closer than the score because they were a solid team.
Sure.
But we ended up pulling away at the end. I think those three scores, 3 unanswered touchdowns, kind of put it away.
Awesome. So you mentioned momentum. I imagine that the momentum of beating Atwater carried over to the following week against Buhawk Colony, which I would think was another school that had probably had state bowl game sites in their vision when you look at the season that they had previously. Yeah.
Watching the Buac Merced game, they played the same week we played Atwater. And just seeing some of the dudes that Buac and Merced had, we were excited to play against those guys. We're outmatched. We're outmatched. We can't play old school 1987 Hillmar football with power I. We got to spread them out, execute, win the one-on-ones, make sure we make the one-on-one tackles. And we were pretty resilient. That Buac game is probably one of the craziest games that have been around. I think going into the fourth, it was 20-3 or 20-10, and we ended up winning 31-27. We had a big kickoff return for a touchdown by one of our sophomore kids, Cam Ireland, and then another one of our sophomore wide receivers caught a ball from our senior quarterback, Seth Miguel, with about 4 seconds left. Corner of the end zone, perfectly thrown ball, and we go ahead 31-27. That's the only time we're ahead in the game with 4 seconds left in the game.
Oh, wow.
So it was a nice thing to see the kids battling and to see that that fight not to give up, and to see some good stuff from our younger guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great finish. So then that brings us up to last week, and Hilmar Merced. I know it was a 14-13 game, and most people would say, well, that was probably a moral victory. But just from getting to talk to you a little bit and understanding the culture at Hilmar, I don't think that was a moral victory. You guys are probably a little disappointed with that.
Merced's a very well coached team. I think they picked up on some of our tendencies on what we were doing. But anytime you're ahead 13-0 in the fourth quarter, you expect to win. Yeah. So with that game, little rundown, we were ahead 13-0. About 4 minutes left. They score on like a 75-yard bomb, big play, and then we stall a little bit on the drive. And then we get a little bad taste in our mouth, which Buac had. They score with about, another touchdown with a minute left. And we just couldn't capitalize on it. We did a good job driving the ball. Our kicker made 2 big kicks. We just asked too much at the very end. We tried a 52-yard field goal, which Andre Alves, he's our junior kicker, he's made it in practice, but it just ended up getting blocked. That would have been an epic end to that game, which we seen happening. We set it up, but we just didn't execute enough. And it was against a really well-coached team. Merced has great athletes on their team, but we still feel like if we did what we were supposed to, especially at the end of the game offensively, we should have put it away.
Yeah,
but stuff happens, and that's something good for our young guys to see too, that we got to finish games, and that we can't go off of what happened the week before. We got to finish games. We can't let it happen to us again. Yeah, those little excitement going into next year too.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point. So, with those 3 games behind you, what lays ahead for the Hilmar Yellow Jackets?
We're excited. We have a normal team into us now with Livingston. They're in our league, so we're excited to see them. They're a team we've been seeing every year. Mm-hmm. They're pretty solid too. They have a quarterback that he is a junior, but he's pretty much been their starter since his freshman year. So he's solid. They have some solid defensive linemen. They have a stud linebacker. But we're just excited to see another TBL team and get a little bit of that rivalry going. So we have Livingston this week. This is our last home game. Then we finish with Golden Valley. Golden Valley, what I've seen, they look pretty solid too. They want to pound a little bit. They got some big guys. They have a pretty solid running back that is a junior this year. So it's a mixture. Livingston's gonna be spread. And we know them, they know us, and then Golden Valley's kind of brand new to us. I don't know if we ever really played them.
Yeah,
so it's going to be interesting.
Well, it'll be fun to see what the next 2 games have for you guys. You had mentioned a couple of players. Is there a couple of players that you kind of want to talk about in terms of what they've done for you this year? And you'd mentioned Seth Miguel. Obviously, he's having a good season. But whether it's linemen, running backs, defensive players, is there any players you want to kind of highlight a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So we have 3 senior linemen. These linemen never get any love, but they've pretty much been the reason why we've been competitive. They're playing 2-way guys. Trace Van Gilder, Josiah Humble, Mason Ackenheil. They're guys where they're a full go on offense line, the full go on defense line. So they're our senior leaders pretty much. And you don't hear their names a lot because they're not scoring touchdowns.
Sure.
But they're a huge part of it. Another one of our guys too, and he's been one of our main guys, Cole Bailey. He's kind of been dealt a bad hand. He had to set out the first 2 games because he was around somebody else that had COVID. So he had to set out those 10 days. And then he ends up hurting his hamstring a couple of days before Merced. So he battled through and he played the best he could. So it's nice to see what he could do, hopefully healing up these last 2 games.
Gotcha.
And then we have 2 sophomores that, watching them play, you don't think they're sophomores. We have Cam Ireland. He starts at slot for us, and he's a strong safety, free safety. Then we have Derek Taylor, who plays, he's just an athlete who plays a little defense end, outside linebacker, and he plays wide receiver for us. But he's a tall kid. He's 6'6", 6'7". What's crazy about him is he's a basketball guy. I'm trying to preach to him how colleges love 6'6" tight ends,
Yeah, for sure.
But he's a super athletic. Normally you have kids that big, they can't move. For us, he's kind of forced into even returning punts. And you don't see that happen with kids his size. But he's a guy that I think his name you're going to hear a lot these next 2 years. He's going to get some serious looks.
That's great. Well, that segues pretty well into the next thing I wanted to ask you. And you may not know the answer to this because I know this is a season unlike any other. But any players on the team that have indicated where they may be playing that, or senior wise, that may have indicated where they may be playing next year?
Yeah. So a couple of guys we have a connection with MJC. Coach Stivers, he's a Helmar guy. He was part of that dynasty in the late '80s. So he's always helping us out. So we have a couple guys that are looking to play at MJC. Seth Miguel's looking over there. So is Cole Bailey. And then we have Trace Van Gilder. He's kind of been looking around, but he's going at Friends University, which is in Kansas. He toured over there, and they gave him a scholarship. It's an NAIA school.
Great.
But it looks, it's nice being out of California, and what he's visited over there, he really likes. He fits in. And we preach that to our guys. It's not all about going D1.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many opportunities out there with NAIA schools you don't even know existed. You just got to put yourself out there, be open up to it, and there's a lot of money and a lot of free education as long as you're willing to. It's not even swallow the pill. It's something that's there, and you just have to swallow a little bit of your own pride, knowing that you're not D1. D1 to us is kind of overrated. We're all about just getting into that free schooling. And you're still playing quality football, and that's what we're trying to preach. Even with MJC, that's watching some of Stivers' MJC stuff. That is quality football, and I think junior college gets a bad rep, but that is some quality football over there.
Yeah, I could not agree more with everything you just said. One of the points you make: go somewhere where you're going to get to play. That's number one.
Oh, yeah.
That's the most important. Playing junior college football is a fantastic place to play. Because let's say even if you did want to go D1 and you go in, you're looking at riding the pine, maybe your first, maybe your second year. You go to a junior college and you get to play. I mean, you're going to go there and play, and you're going to put up some film, and it really gives you a chance to open a lot more doors. So Coach, you make a great point, and couldn't agree with you more. So here we are. We're getting close to the end of this crazy 5-game spring season, which we've never seen before. So that closes that window for you guys as coaches. So you're going from, here we are in the spring, and you guys are going to have to do a quick job of turning around in the summer and putting things together for the fall. From a coach's perspective, how's that look for Helmar Yellow Jackets?
I think the one thing that's kind of hurting us a little bit is we've always been built with a weight room. We've had kids usually working out February through summer. So now we're going to have to kind of condense that a little bit, and making sure kids are healthy to do it too. Some kids are kind of beat up from the season, but we're pretty excited. Our JV team has been rolling. There are a lot of kids that have bought into the program. They're doing what the coaches are saying. They just put a beating on Merced, and I have stuff you won't even think would happen. They beat Merced 55-6. And this JV squad can be special as long as they keep that buy-in, stay humble, and working hard. We're pretty excited about the future.
That's great. And like I said at the top of this interview, Helmar is always going to be a school that you can expect good things from. And today we're talking about football, but I just want to say this: as an athletic program as a whole, I think Helmar always has something to offer. So, Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been Coach Mark Santos from Helmar High School. We've been talking football. I appreciate you joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Fun times.